here.
Yeah.
He won his first Legacy round. I know he's on Sneak and Show again, so.
Very good run, obviously, for him. Last week in Providence, and now at it again.
I guess we'll look at the, and I don't want to insult Brian Kibler here, but the best looking man in Magic. Maybe the best hair. Even though Reid's hair is a little short right now. I don't know how I feel about this haircut.
It's not as luxurious as it usually is.
I don't know. Reid's looking good, but the hair is just a little short. I think he got a haircut before this event.
Maybe. Still.
He's playing Blood Red Miracles. He's 4-0-1, playing against Bryant Cook, a player who we have seen do very well in the Legacy portions of our events, especially when we come up in the Northeast, always playing Storm. If Reid knows Bryant, you know this is what he's on.
Yeah, I think the Reid versus Kibler debate, it depends if you prefer someone flamboyant or someone stoic. I think that kind of frames the whole thing.
Huh.
I prefer stoic myself. So Reid gets the nod from me.
We are underway here in round number 6 of 16. A Gataxian Probe to lead things off. You're going to see a counterspell, a Brainstorm, a Jace, the Mind Sculptor, and a whole bunch of lands. Throw a Terminus in there as well. If you're Cook and you see that hand, you got to be real happy.
Yeah, this is ad nauseam Tendrils can easily beat a counterspell either by powering through it, duressing it away, or just winning before counterspell's online.
Take a draw, will Cook. That's a Volcanic Island, and a pretty one at that, and simply pass the turn back. Again, Bryant, a Storm player through and through. He's been playing this archetype basically forever, one of the people who helped develop it.
He beat me at Invitational with this deck.
You were probably playing Burn, weren't you?
Yep. Yeah, I was.
Another Gataxian Probe, and now a Ponder here from Cook. Wow, you must have gotten unlucky.
Yeah, it was.
How many turns did you play? Maybe 4 total?
I think there was one game where he had to like duress me or something, and that took a little bit longer, but maybe we're looking at 3 or 4 turns of Magic.
There it is. Well, I hope you showed him who the boss was with those Chain Lightnings and Lava Spikes.
He was on 12, I think, when he killed me.
That's pretty low.
Yeah.
All things considered. An Underground Sea. That's what Cook will fetch up with Misty Rainforest. See if he's got any more cantrip he can do. Maybe a discard spell here.
Now, Brian needs to sort of straddle the line between developing his mana enough and his cantrips to get a good enough hand and keeping enough left over so he has a sufficient storm count when he does try to go off.
Duke looks like he's going to cast a Brainstorm in response to this duress, and that's what he will do. So 3 cards are coming. Looks like he wants to hide a little something here. Again, we know he has a counterspell in his hand. He probably wants to protect that for the following turns. And as Reid does resolve his Brainstorm, I saw you take a little look there at Reid's deck. I know what you were looking for. You were wondering if that card was a Predict. I know what you were looking at.
He does have a Predict, which warms my charcoal heart because I try to cram one Predict into so many different Legacy decks, so it's just great to see Reid doing the same thing.
The Predict challenge may be in order here for Reid, predicting himself or his opponent. That should make for some fun as we'll take a look here. From the duress, there is a Jace, a Brainstorm, that Predict, along with a bunch of fetch lands. Arid Mesa, 2 Scalding Tarns, and a Flooded Strand.
Reid, I think, Bryant's opening on the first couple turns here, not super clear what was going on. The duress really gives away that he's up to some sort of storm strategy, and Reid correctly hiding the counterspell somewhere in his top 2 cards.
You have to imagine the counterspell's on top of his deck. I would imagine, as it looks like that's the only piece of protection that he has at this point. There could be a Force of Will hiding out as well. You see Cook is going to record this information. I would be surprised if he doesn't take Brainstorm here.
Brainstorm seems like the most powerful card in this hand to me. Although Predict, that is also just so sweet.
That could be anything.
Could be anything. I try to put Predict into Goblin Guy, Delver of Secrets style strategies because you know what.
Oh my.
Submerge. Submerge Predict is the biggest rub-in of all time.
But don't you want them to draw that card again?
Well, you also want to rub it in their face that you submerged them and then predicted the guy away. So, I don't know. It's competing interests.
A Scalding Tarn here for Duke before passing the turn back over to Cook. We're going to see if the green light's on here for Bryant. This is normally a turn that Storm can go off. This is 2 mana. This is a Burning Wish. And
he's casting it right into the jaws of this counterspell here. So I think that Bryant might be saying, I don't necessarily need this to win the game. If it resolves, it makes it easier, of course, but not a requirement by any means. So we'll see how Reid wants to handle this.
It looks like Reid's probably going to counter this.
I think that you have to fight over this because there's a really good chance that there's something like Thoughtseize or Cabal Therapy in Bryant's sideboard, which you don't want to play against anyway, and it could be something even worse than that. So Reid also just needs to kind of spend his mana. He needs to be tapping out, doing things each turn. So he can't just sit all day on this counterspell.
And there's counterspell. It's going to take care of Burning Wish. And it's kind of a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation, right? If you let Burning Wish resolve, he's probably going to find something that is good against the counterspell, as you mentioned, Therapy, some other duress spell. And if you don't, well, then I guess, you'd just rather counter it because you don't know what he's searching for. There's no guarantee he's going to find that card.
I like the play from both players. Burning Wish is probably the most cumbersome card in Bryant's hand, so it's a good card to get out of the hand and trade with something. But Reid still needs to value that card quite a bit, and so he's going to fight over it.
You see Cook's hand right now. He actually has a Cabal Therapy in the grip. It looks like he might fire this off right now. Oh, I think I know what this means.
Yeah.
It is go time.
Fireworks.
Now Duress to clear the way, perhaps. So Dark Ritual, 2 black mana floating, second spell for the turn.
And this is good sequencing here, too, because, Reid's shields are down. If he even cantrips in response, that, he probably has 1 cantrip in his hand tops. So if he does nothing, Bryant can take the cantrip. And if he does something, he stands to see post Brainstorm or whatever the case may be.
And now it's time for a Rite of Flame. That's spell number 3. Lion's Eye Diamond spell number 4. I believe he's going to hold priority with that Infernal Tutor, bust that Lion's Eye Diamond. That's spell number 5. And he's going to go a searching. I imagine that this is ad nauseum, and that's exactly what it's going to be.
Yeah, I don't think he quite has enough rituals in the graveyard to go off through Past in Flames, so I think it's going to have to be the ad nauseum route, which is fine. Brian's got a lot of life to play with and some mana floating, so he's got a very high percentage chance of winning the game from here.
Yeah, life total's high enough. Probably he's going to be good to go. He's going to cast ad nauseum. So that'll be spell number 6. A little bit of mana floating here. He's going to turn over a Rite of Flame. This is an Infernal Tutor. There's a Lotus Petal, a Cabal Therapy. So now he's going to take 5. He's at 10 right now. Down to 9. Let's make it 8, 7.
And Bryant's just really looking for ritual effects here. These additional cantrips aren't helping him win the game this turn. Now, if he fizzles here, he doesn't lose the game. He can just take a grip of cantrips and say go. All Reid's doing next turn is firing off a Jace, so.
6. Let's keep in mind he has not played a land yet this turn. Still 6. Still 6. 4. He might have to put the brakes on now. He might be happy enough, and he's just going to play these cards face up. No reason to add him to the grip. Here's Lotus Petal. That's spell number 7.
I would imagine that this Burning Wish gets him to kill from here.
Dark Ritual spell 8. Lotus Petal is spell number 9. He's going to go through the graveyard here. He'll take a look, make sure he has enough mana floating to do what he wants to do, especially with those 2 Lion's Eye Diamonds as well. I believe that Burning Wish will be the kill. He's going to show Reid exactly how many spells I've cast. We'll add 2 more to him here with the Lion's Eye Diamonds. Here's a Duress. Make sure the coast is clear. I'm going to cast the Burning Wish, break my Lion's Eye Diamonds with the Burning Wish on the stack so I don't discard the card that I searched for, which is a Tendrils of Agony for lethal. Bryant Cook wins game number 1 here for Reid Duke. Ad nauseum Tendrils up a game over Blue White Red Miracles.
Easy stuff, and that's a demonstration of how good the combo decks are potentially can be in Legacy. Reid's deck has, counter spells and counterspells beyond just the literal counterspell he played, but ad nauseum is going to push through that if there isn't a lot of it, or if it isn't backed up by some sort of pressure.
Oddly enough, I think of the events that we have covered over the past couple of weeks. I was in Providence with you, of course, in Indianapolis with Osip Levinovich. And I know you did an event before that in Somerset. We have not seen It Feels Like Storm for a little while.
No, we had AJ Kerrigan. He was doing well, I believe, in New Jersey with that deck. We had him on camera, but okay. I think there may have been one in the elimination rounds one of the last couple of weeks. But yeah, it's not a frequently seen deck. It's complicated to play. A lot of players don't really enjoy playing combo decks, so that's part of it. It's mentally taxing to play in a way that a deck like Sneak and Show is not, because there's a lot more sequencing, a lot more math involved. So the people who play it, Brian Cook, Ari Lax, I associate with this deck quite a bit. They're quite passionate about it, but I don't think it's a deck that's very good to just casually pick up and play in a tournament.
Definitely a real learning curve there. Reid Duke did not do a lot in that game, so we're going to take a look at his sideboard and see if he can figure some things out. He's got 2 copies of Blood Moon, 2 Vendilion Clicks, 2 copies of Pyroblast, a Red Elemental Blast, a Spell Pierce, a Grafdigger's Cage, a Pithing Needle, a Pyroclasm, and a Treat the Angel, Supreme Verdict, a Humility, and a Mountain. That's not a sideboard to really beat Storm with.
Vendilion Click's a big help.
That gives very good, yes.
Vendilion Click's very good against ad nauseum, both as a piece of disruption and a clock. The Pyroblast do some work as well. The Spell Pierce, but you are correct. It is light on action for this matchup.
Now, Cook seems like he's already kind of pre-sideboarded against a deck like this with those discard effects. Any additional help over there?
3 Abrupt Decays, 2 Xantis Swarms, 2 Power Blasts, a Chain of Vapor, a Thoughtseize, an Infernal Tutor, a Grape Shot, an Enemy of the Warrens, Tendrils of Agony, Pass in Flames, and a Massacre. Many of these cards are just Burning Wish targets, so they're not really live sideboard cards. I think you're going to see the Pyroblast come in, and potentially the Xantis Swarms as well. Reid showed Counterspell. Usually when your opponent has that card in their deck, it means they have quite a few counters of various costs and persuasion. So it wouldn't surprise me if Cook brought in the 2 Xantis Swarms as well.
Now, even though Duke did not really do anything that game, and to be fair, Cook didn't see a lot of Duke's deck. Let's make no mistake about it. Duke is playing Miracles. That means he has Counterbalance top, and that's fantastic against Storm.
Yes.
He just didn't find any of that stuff. Reid, for all intents and purposes, didn't do anything that game.
And now the question is, does Bryant identify him as being on that deck? Because if he does, maybe the Abrupt Decays come in. But Reid didn't really do anything. Now, a lot of his cards would imply that he was playing Counterbalance, but Bryant did not see either of the signature pieces. So he can't be 100% certain if Reid's playing that combo.
We'll see if Reid is able to put together any of those pieces this go-around, because he did not do much of anything in the first game. A little brainstorm action outside of that, just moving on. So both players going to lay out their openers. Take a look at them. Again, Duke sitting here at 4-0-1. Cook sitting here at 4-1. Bryant Cook up a game over the Duke. Let's see if Reid finds anything he likes. You see a Spell Pierce in his hand.
Among Reid's litany of accomplishments, including his first Pro Tour top 8 recently, a former Invitational winner himself.
Yeah, 2 years ago, Los Angeles. And it looks like he's going to take a mulligan, not happy with what he sees. Cook, I believe, is happy with what he's looking at. He's already set his hand down, good to go. So Duke will be on 6 cards here in just a little bit.
And Reid has to mulligan aggressively because he's under the gun to find a piece of disruption and quite frankly, multiple pieces of disruption quickly in the game.
Yeah. Of course, we did make our large announcements today. SCG game night.
Yes. Every Wednesday night. Available at your local store. It can be whatever format the TO wants to run it as. We have foils and pins we're giving out through that program. A little more casual focus. Just a small piece of organized play to help promote more casual play in the store, or to help people kind of get their foot in the door playing in organized tournaments.
And of course, we've got our Modern and Premier IQs as well, beginning in July at the SCG Open Series in Baltimore.
That's going to be a big deal. Modern finally coming to the Open Series, large tournaments, doesn't interfere with Standard or Legacy. Open Series points for everyone who plays. Top 4 qualify for the Invitational. $5,000 in prizes. Really big addition to the Open Series. The last piece of the puzzle, more Modern play.
You know what that means? That gives you a second old format to play Burn in. Congratulations to you.
It's not good in that format. It's better in Legacy than in Modern.
Scalding Tarn to start things off here for Reid. He's going to sacrifice that right away. We'll see what land he does want to search for.
See, in Legacy, the cards get better, but their life total stays the same. So it just scales up in power.
Ah, I got you.
Yeah.
I got you. So that means that realistically, Burn must be at its best in Vintage.
No, there is a tipping point where that's no longer the...
Oh, okay.
Because you don't get any new cards in Vintage that you don't have access to in Legacy.
Oh, because the Burn cards aren't banned.
Right. It's all the same stuff.
Yeah.
But you get Fire Blast and Prize of Progress in Legacy. Those are 2 of your best cards.
Sensei's Divining Top here for Reid. You have to imagine Cook knows what he's up to now.
The jig is up.
Misty Rainforest here for Bryant. He will sacrifice that, go down to 19, see what land he wants to search out, and it will be an Underground Sea. See if he's going to fire off a discard spell, if it's time for a little bit of manipulation.
I wonder what the retail value is of Bryant's Storm deck.
A lot.
Thousands and thousands of dollars.
I'm going to go with a lot. This is going to be a ponder. So, going to time to take a look at a couple of cards. Yeah, his deck is... So, normally when I see like a gorgeous deck, I'm like blown away by it, but I've seen him play Storm so many times, it's just like kind of par for the course. I know when he sits down in Legacy, I'm looking at a very, very nice Storm deck.
Yeah.
I'm just used to that behavior.
It's easy to get desensitized to this sort of thing. We see so much of it, but every now and again, something really catches your eye.
Duke drew a card, now he's going to spin the top. Leads me to believe that maybe he doesn't have a second land, hoping that top would be able to get the job done here. So you see a bit of a sigh as Reid is going to take a look at those 3 cards, consult the others in his hand as well.
I suspect if Reid was without a second land, he would have topped on the upkeep. But he's looking for something. And spending mana this way is dangerous. You know, he in theory needs all of his defenses available at all times to fight over Bryant, potentially killing him the next turn. So his hand is definitely absent of something significant.
Says, I'd like to draw a card. Top will go on top. Card is added to the grip. That's a Plains, followed up with another top. And I believe Duke actually does have Force Will plus blue card in his hand, so he's got a little bit of defense. The problem here, of course, is that Storm doesn't really care about Force Will that much due to their discard effects.
A little bit of defense is not enough.
Yeah.
You need a lot of defense, or you need some defense backed up by pressure.
Gemstone Mine is a land that Cook does play, and he's going to fire off a Cabal Therapy. Don't know if it's time for fireworks just yet, but he is going to name Forcible. I think that's part of the reason that Reid just did take a draw, is just because if I find my second land, it's a blue land, I can put Counterbalance directly into play. And Counterbalance plus a top, even though I don't know what the top card is, just having a 1 may be good enough.
For sure. But Reid playing a Plains last turn instead of blue source of mana could be some serious trouble here.
This is multiple copies of Lotus Petal. Is it time to get this show on the road for Cook? Now it's a Rite of Flame.
Oh, my.
It's a Lion's Eye Diamond. 2, 3. Infernal Tutor, break that in response. Well then.
This didn't take long.
I'm going to discard Abrupt Decay. He gets to search his deck for something.
Turn 2 kill through Force of Will. That's not bad.
He does
not
all right.
Not shabby.
He does all right.
And you wonder why I struggle a little bit with Burn. You know?
Got to search for ad nauseum at 19. I tell you, because Storm hasn't done well recently on the Open Series, it's almost like people forgot about it, because I don't even think about it right now. You see he's going to cast ad nauseum. I believe no mana floating here for Bryant. And he has already played a land because it's the second turn of the game, so he slides all that stuff aside. And now it's time to wind down that life total. 17. Let's make it 16. Let's make it 14. Down to 13. Let's make it 11. Still at 11.
And that Petal's a big deal here because he needs some 0 mana sources of mana. That Lion's Eye Diamond too.
He's down to 9 now. It went from 10 from the Ritual, 9. Now it's going to be 7. Now it's going to be 6. Now it's going to be 5. Might be time to slow down.
Let's keep in mind, he does not have to win the game this turn.
He does not have to do that. You're right.
And he showed real weakness with that, with the hand he exposed and his sequencing here. So Bryant doesn't have to play this risky if he doesn't want to.
This is 4. He's got a lot of reactive cards in his deck. Abrupt Decays, Blasts. He's going to check his sideboard now. Do I have Tendrils in here? Because that would suck. Do I have another ad nauseum? Am I safe to keep going? If anybody would know, it would be him.
You know, again, I don't think he has to get too risky here. Even if he doesn't win the game this turn, there's a really good chance he can just win the game next turn. So,
it looks like he's going to keep those cards. So he's at 4. Now he's going to go down to 2. Let me see that counterspell, that counterbalance, and the Jace. Mystery card coming. Again, Cook has already played a land for the turn. I do agree with you. That Lotus Petal is very, very important to start things up again. But where can he go from here? You see him counting the spells that he's already cast here. There's a Petal. Gonna crack that. This is a Rite of Flame. That's going to add mana. That's going to add mana as well. There's already one Rite of Flame in the graveyard, so those are going to generate a bunch of mana. You can assume the storm count is going to be high enough at this point, so don't really need to keep track of that. Now he's going to cast a Lion's Eye Diamond. This is a Burning Wish. With that on the stack, he'll break the Lion's Eye Diamond. He's going to discard the whole hand.
Yep.
That LED was cracked for black. You have to imagine he's goes through the grave, goes through the sideboard, reaches for the tendrils, going to cast that for a whole bunch. Reid's going to count the copies of spells that have been cast. But I think in just a moment, my friends, Bryant Cook is going to advance here to 5-1 as he brings out all of these cards that he's already cast this turn. There's another Petal. Here comes the ad nauseum. You throw in the probe. Yeah, and a bunch of other stuff. Reid Duke is going to extend the hand. Bryant Cook, 5-1 with Storm.
Says a lot about this deck where you look at Reid's deck, he has counterbalance top, some actual counter spells, then dealing clicks in the sideboard, and you still say the match is probably positive for Bryant because Storm is just that overwhelming. It has a bad matchup with decks like Rug Delver.